I'm mostly intent on reviewing most episodes involving Quake of the Creek, mostly from its cast of characters and what people think about the cast of characters. And before you ask, by the time of this recording, I did not watch the finale of Capture the Flag. And before any of you ask, there is a possibility that I'm going to be doing an anthology video by reviewing all the episodes similar to Steven Universe and Shaolin Showdown. But in the meantime, I'm going to be reviewing one of the episodes first because, to be quite honest, I'm pretty sure that you want me to look at my perspective on the other characters before I get to the big finale, regardless of how old it's becoming since it's been 2 months old. But getting into the premise of this episode, Kelsey is having bad luck and Sparkle Cadet, which is the name of the character, decides to erase negativity since that whole character is based off one of the Sailor Moon characters. Usually this episode is mostly predictable for what it's mostly going to be about, but for someone who watched a little bit of Sailor Moon and the fact that I can understand the premise of Sailor Moon, I can easily tell that this episode really wants to be like Johnny Test, but unlike Johnny Test, doing it that doesn't rip off anything from those franchises completely. And me saying that, considering that this show references other cartoons, it really sums up on how this show is basically a better version of Johnny Test by not plagiarizing 100%. But moving past that, I can say that the plot centering around Kelsey's bad luck while Sparkle Cadet is just trying to erase any negativity. It's basically what people usually do when they're at that age by erasing negativity, but at the same time, negativity, whether it's just mostly neutral or something from the other person, will happen regardless in any other scenario. And considering that these characters are at an age where they completely get into cartoons and TV shows and they take the values from that a lot more seriously, this really feels a lot more interesting to actually see Sparkle Cadet taking inspiration from Sailor Moon or from the comics and completely throwing herself into her own fan-made character in order to help Kelsey with her situation. Considering that she said that she has an inner sparkle that completely erases any negativity on herself. So quite frankly, I actually liked Kelsey in this episode compared to her other appearances from other episodes. Granted, she's mostly taking the values from a Sword Fire from one of her favorite TV shows or from video games, but I can easily tell why she's feeling this way in this episode. She's having bad luck, so many negativity, and the fact that when she ever tries to reverse the negativity, even the inch of negativity just keeps coming back to her, since that she got a splinter after pushing a huge tree on the ground. And for how the episode wraps up with its final minutes involving Kelsey discussing her issues with her friends while taking the anti-sparkle out of her, this really feels like a Sailor Moon episode. Regardless if I didn't watch any episodes involving Sailor Moon and only watched 2 movies, I can easily tell what they're trying to do with this element here. And to be perfectly honest, every time I completely watch this episode along with other episodes involving memorable characters, I can easily tell that the direction of these episodes will a lot more the more you analyze it. Yes, these are children regardless, in the fact that other episodes involving them will probably be mostly different compared to how they're portrayed, but to be perfectly honest, every time I completely remember this episode being somewhat of an inspiration from Steven Universe, which doesn't really have any inspiration, but what I mean by that is the fact that one of the creators of Steven Universe ends up creating this show, which isn't saying much considering the fact that Rebecca Shoko also worked on Adventure Time. This really feels like a show from a show from a show, even if they're not connected with each other. But at the same time, without Steven Universe or even Adventure Time, we wouldn't be able to have Quake of the Creek, nor these characters. I know that's not saying much considering that there are other cartoons from Cartoon Network like Elliot from Earth, but the thing is, with this being mostly one of the only running cartoons that We Bear Bear, Steven Universe, and Unfortunately, Affinity Train have officially came to an end. I really feel like this is like the only cartoon that feels the most watchable from Cartoon Network. I'm not trying to be a bit rude, but every other cartoon from Cartoon Network, regardless if they're unique upon watching them for the first time, aren't really that memorable to watch to begin with. And considering that this show is mostly toned down towards kids adventures, like misadventures, like NNA, but not in a way where it's mostly physical or anything. This is mostly disappointing considering that Quake of the Creek is like the only Cartoon Network show Cartoon Network has going for. And this is still before where we get to see the spin-offs of We Baby Bears along with other cartoons. But when we head into the new year, I'll discuss that when I watch the episodes. But as for this episode, I'm gonna give it a 7.25 out of 10. And considering that this show, along with Summer Camp Island and Area from Mouth are literally the only Cartoon Network shows that I'm watching briefly when it comes to my free time compared to We Bare Bears and Steven Universe, Cartoon Network really is taking a different tone for this decade. Again, this is still the beginning of the decade, but at the same time, we don't know what the next best cartoon is going to be coming to Cartoon Network just yet, aside from Teen Titans Go.
Let's get this started again. Me and my whole crew, we live with no rules.